Have you ever felt stressed when somebody was sick, even when you were sick? Or have you ever been too afraid to seek medical help because you didn't have insurance and were afraid of the out-of-pocket costs? Or maybe you did have insurance. You were afraid that they wouldn't accept your insurance, or your premium might be too high. Didn't know how much longer you can keep that insurance. The deductibles were extremely high. You couldn't afford it. My name is Lisa Marquez, and I will be presenting Unrealistic Healthcare. I have done a lot of research on the subject, and this is extremely important because it can affect you or a loved one. Unrealistic Healthcare. I will be presenting the problem, solution, and action for this. Then I will recap all of this and answer any questions that you may have. So let's talk about the problem. Everyone needs healthcare, but as Rudin explains, healthcare is unrealistic and it's unattainable. Why? Because it is expensive. Bloomberg talks about how today over 30 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured. In this graph here, you can see all of the expenses allotted for insurance in one household. Secondly, you can see that there's an effect in treatment. There's a delay in it, and Riddell talks a bit more in depth into this. There's patients who will decline a medical test because they were too afraid of the out-of-pocket costs. Frankly, they just didn't have the budget. Something else that he points to is skipping a prescription because your insurance didn't cover it or because the out-of-pocket cost was too high. And then lastly, he talks about putting off doctor visits, which can be extremely dangerous. To go more into extent in this problem, Rudin explains medical debt and collections. Medical bills are so high that is the #1 cause in the United States that leads to bankruptcy. Another extent of this problem McWilliams discusses is being diagnosed too late because delaying in doctor visits, as I mentioned earlier. The reason why I said it could be dangerous is because it keeps increasing the number in deaths. So allow me to propose a solution. Universal healthcare. Garson explains universal health coverage is defined as ensuring that all people have access to needed health services. Well, how does this work? Amadeo explains it as a single-payer system. No cost in medical treatment. And you don't have to worry about if your insurance accepts this doctor or a certain doctor denying services because you couldn't afford them. And lastly, total coverage. Well, why would this solve our problem? Because universal healthcare will make it attainable. Riddell explains you don't have to worry any longer about being able to pay for that exam that you were worried before with universal healthcare. You don't have to worry about going to a certain doctor or even seeking medical help. Another reason is because it will reduce late diagnosis that lead to fatalities rising. Bloomberg explains that this will decrease the number in fatalities. And I know you have an objection. Well, how are we going to pay for this? Our taxes are going to go up. But let's stop and think the savings and out of pocket costs, or better yet, your health. This will lower the healthcare costs for the economy and force hospitals and doctors to provide same standard of care at a low cost. So allow me to show you a glimpse with universal healthcare. It will be affordable. Nobody gets left behind because everybody is covered and you can choose your doctor. Versus without it, you decline that ambulance because of the out-of-pocket cost. Those piling and piling of medical bills leading to bankruptcy, collections, poor credit scores, continued rising number in deaths, and insurance policies saying you're not covered, your deductibles are too high, while your premiums are just as high, and you also have to pay copays. So let's take action. It's going to take a couple steps, and I will propose to write to our local leaders, number one, and number two, let's petition. I provided some information here for you to inform yourself and sign this petition. We need to take action now. So let's wrap this up. I have presented the effects of unrealistic healthcare, provided a solution, and proposed an action plan. So to recap, the problem is unrealistic healthcare. It's costing lives. Solution here is to support universal healthcare and take action by writing to Governor Newsom to pass such law so that neither you or a loved one will live in fear of seeking medical help. Here are my references, and thank you so much for listening.